Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So, should I broadcast this on Facebook?
Already on YouTube, also live.
You are doing, but I could also go live on Facebook, I think, maybe, huh?
Yeah, you can do it.
Yes, Prabhu, you can do it on Facebook.
Yeah, let me hit the buttons. Give me a moment.
Yeah, take your time. I hear that. I think some people have gone to the other.
The only Damaraj Swami is there, and I told him to come over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Premanandi was also there, I think.
Yeah, but she came over here.
Oh, okay. Why do I do that? Add a title. Srimad Bhagavatam. Where is the title? Oh, Acha, there it is. One, 7, 13, and I think 13 and 14 are together, right?
Let me check. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 13 and 14 are together.
Okay, I guess I'm live now. on Facebook.
Yeah.
Should I start the class then?
Yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayana Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Narancheva Narotamam.
Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim
Saraswatim
Vyasa
Vyasam.
Tato Jayam Udhirayet
Tatoya Yadudirayet.
Namodaya.
Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu
Nasta Prayeshu Vadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata
Bhagavata
Sevaya.
Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhavati Naishtiki
Bhaktir Bhavati
Naistiki.
Naistiki.
Srimad Bhagavatam Skanda 1. Skanda means canto. Canto means skanda. Adhyaya chapter 7, shloka 13 and 14. Shlokas, 2 shlokas, they're together. Yada mridhe kauravasrin jayanam virishvato viragatim gateshu vrikodara vidha gada bhimarsha bhagnorudhande dhritarashtra putre Bhartuf priyam drauniriti sma pashyan Krishna sutanam swapatam shiramsi upaharad vipriyam eva tasya jugupsitam karma vigarhayanti padapataha yada yada. Or should I just recite it on my own? Yada, when, Mridhe, in the battlefield, Kaurava, the party of Dhritarashtra, Srinjayanam, of the party of the Pandavas, Vireshu, of the warriors, Ato, thus, Viragatim, the destination deserved by the warriors, Gateshu, being obtained, Vrikodara, Bhima, the second Pandava, Avidha, beaten, Gada, by the club, Abhimarsha, lamenting, Bhagna, broken, Urudhande, spinal cord, Dhritarashtra Putre, the son of Dhritarashtra, Bhartuhu, of the master, Priyam, pleasing, Draunihi, the son of Dronacharya, iti, thus, sma, shall be, pashyam, seeing, Krishna, Draupadi, Sutanam, of the sons, Swapatam, while sleeping, Shiramsi, heads, Upaharat, delivered as a prize, Vipriyam, unpleasing, Eva, like, Tasya, his, Jugupsitam, most heinous, Karma, act, Vigarhayanti, disapproving. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. When the respective warriors of both camps, namely the Kauravas and the Pandavas, were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the dead warriors obtained their deserved destinations, and when the son of Dhritarashtra fell down lamenting, his spine broken, being beaten by the club of Bhimsen, the son of Dronacharya, Ashwatthama, beheaded the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi and delivered the heads as a prize to it. Excuse me. Excuse me for a moment. And delivered the heads as a prize to his master, foolishly thinking that he would be pleased. Duryodhana, however, disapproved of the heinous act, and he was not pleased in the least. Purport. Transcendental topics of the activities of Lord Sri Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam begin from the end of the battle at Kurukshetra, where the Lord himself spoke about himself in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, both the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are transcendental topics of Lord Krishna. The Gita is Krishna Katha, or topics of Krishna, because it is spoken by the Lord. And the Bhagavatam is also Krishna Katha, because it is spoken about the Lord. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted everyone to be informed of both Krishna Kathas by his order. Lord Krishna Chaitanya is Krishna himself in the garb of a devotee of Krishna, and therefore the versions of both Lord Krishna and Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are identical. Lord Krishna desired that all who are born in India seriously understand such Krishna Kathas, and then after full realization preach the transcendental message to everyone in all parts of the world. That will bring about the desired peace and prosperity of the stricken world. That's the end of the purport. Now my commentary. The world really is stricken at the present moment, stricken by disease. Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada champions the cause of the Gita in the purport. In the purport, Prabhupada uses that space to advocate study of Gita as the words of Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna, one of the things he told Arjuna in the Gita, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukha Dosh Anudarshanam. Dukh, misery, dosh, faults, are in a nutshell birth, death, old age, and disease. Well, all I can say is some of us are suffering from old age. And as the body gets older, it starts to, what's the word? It starts to decline. And there are various ailments. It's like a machine. In fact, it is a machine. What is that? The 15th chapter of Gita. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridaya arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudhani mayaya. That this material body is a machine, yantra. The word yantra means machine. One of the meanings, one of the English meanings of the Sanskrit word yantra. Yantra rudha, arudha, situated upon. We get up on some sort of a machine, like a tractor or a car or a truck or a forklift or whatever kind of a motorcycle. Yantra rudha. So Mayaya, by the power of the Lord's external energy. This material world is the external energy of the Supreme Lord. And we are situated on that energy, just as if we were driving our car. Who are we? The soul inside the body. So we have taken birth in a particular body, and there is an identification, material identification, that all living entities acquire when they're born in the material world. The simply wishing that I should get liberated from this material condition is not enough to actually obtain liberation. One has to follow the religious principles. Dharma. The word dharma is also come into the English language, not so much as other Sanskrit words like karma, yoga, pandit, etc. But it is there, dharma. People are familiar with this word. Also because of Buddhism. Buddhism is popular to some extent in the West. So the Vedic view is that there are 4 aims in life. They are, apparently 3 of them are material, which they are, and we are here in the material world. And the first of those 3 is dharma. One must learn religious principles. That's taught here in the Bhagavatam. Bhakta Prahlad, also known as Prahlad Maharaj in ISKCON. I think he told his friends in the Gurukul of Shanda and Amarka, the sons of Shukracharya, Kaumara acharet prajnaha. Kaumara means as a young child. Kaumara acharet prajnaha dharman bhagavatan iha. Sorry, being on a computer has its advantages and its disadvantages. So, in the childhood, one should learn what is Kaumara Acharet Prajnaha. One should use his intelligence. Acharet means to act in a certain way. Prajnaha, intelligently. Dharman, Bahuvachanam. Learn one Sanskrit word today. Bahuvachanam. Bahuvachanam, Bahu, many, Vachanam, words. In English, plural. Bahuvachanam. Dharman, there are many dharmas. There are many religious principles. There's not just one religious principle. Although in Gita, Krishna says, give up the dharmas and surrender to me, doesn't mean we should not follow dharma. That means that we should become a surrendered soul. That means we should surrender to Krishna. And surrendering to Krishna means learning dharma, because dharman sakshat tu bhagavat pranitam. Yamaraj tells the Yamadutas in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, dharman sakshat tu bhagavat pranitam. Right now, dharma means what is instructed by the Supreme Lord. Sakshat means directly. Dharman sakshat tu. Certainly, Bhagavat Pranitam, whatever Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has instructed. So that comes to the Rupa Goswami verse, and also 2 verses in Gita. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhakti Rupata Yaiva Kalpate. Bhakti has to be done. Service to Krishna, service to Vishnu, service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead has to be executed according to Shastras, Vedic Shastras, Vedic scriptures. And Lord Krishna told that to Arjuna in the 16th chapter, 23rd verse of Gita. 16th Adhyaya, 23rd Shloka. Yaha Shastra Vidhim Utsujya Vartate Kamakarataha Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti Nasukam Na Paragatim. Those who do not follow the system, Vidhi, set down in Shastra, Yaha Shastra Vidhim Utsujya. They gave up that path. They gave up that process taught in Shastra. Yah Shastra Vidhimutsrija Vartate Kamakarataha. Vartate. They do Vartate Kama according to their desires. Kamakarataha. They act whimsically. Nasa Siddhim. They cannot get perfection. Nasukam. Nasa siddhim avapnoti, they cannot attain perfection. Nasukam, they cannot attain happiness. Na paragatim, they cannot attain the supreme destination. What is the supreme destination? Moksha, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. First, you have to learn dharma. Then, in order to maintain the material body, there is economic development, artha, and sense gratification, kama. Most of the people will be householders, and householder means having a wife and children, sense gratification. But at the end of life, it has to be given up. It will be given up, but if you don't give up voluntarily, you will be forced to give it up. And then where do you go? What is the destination? Paragatim, supreme destination. But in Gita, again, Lord Krishna instructed Arjuna, Urdvam gachanti sattvasta. Those who are situated in the mode of goodness, those who are sattvic, sattvasta, go up. They have a better destination. Madhye tishtanti rajasaha. Those who are in the middle, rajasaha, in the mode of passion, they remain here. Adho gachanti tamasaha. And those who are in the mode of ignorance, tamasaha, adaha, they go down. Gachanti, learn another Sanskrit word today. Gachanti, they go down. Adho gachanti tamasaha. So don't go down, go up, become sattvic. If you follow dharma, you will become sattvic. If you don't follow dharma and you follow your own desires, it is rajasic. And if you just take intoxicants, like most of the people in the USA, and I guess Europe, and I guess most of the world, and even in India, you go and see the liquor shops and you can see the line in front of the liquor shops. Those who take intoxicants are in the mode of ignorance, tamasaha. So that has to be understood. Intoxication blinds a person to the real goal of life. And intoxication is the end all and be all of those who are in the mode of ignorance to different degrees. If you come home at night and open a bottle of wine, you're getting intoxicated. You're not intoxicated all day, but you're still getting intoxicated. And if you're injecting heroin or other such massively intoxicating chemicals into your body, you're 24 hours intoxicated, and actually you meet with an early death because you destroy the body. Alcohol also destroys the liver and other bodily functions. But walk around in this country, drive around and see the liquor stores. You know, even Hindus are running liquor stores here and in India. I remember, oh boy, in 1975, I made life members. We call it making life members, but we used to enroll businessmen as life members of ISKCON. And I was in Vijayawada. We had a program there. And every day I was able to enroll one life member. As I recall, in 17 days, I enrolled 17 life members. And I remember, I still remember the man's name, but I don't want to mention it because this is public, but he's probably long gone. But anyway, the name isn't important. But, you know, he was the proprietor of Lakshmi Wine, right? And every day he did puja to Lakshmi Devi for 3 hours so he could earn money in the wine shop. So one might be a Hindu or he may not be a Hindu, but he may sell wine. What is his destination? He has to suffer the reaction of the activity of selling wine. Wow. You know, this material world. So therefore, there's another verse in Gita that comes to mind. Karmanaschapi bodhavyam. Therefore, you should know what is karma, what is action. Karmanaschapi bodhavyam bodhavyam picha karmanaha. What is action and what is inaction? No, what is action? Karmanaschapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chapi vikarmanaha. Vikarma is bad action. Wine shops, slaughterhouses, the mafia. The mafia is a gross example. There are many mafias. They may not be Italians. They may be from any community. Ruffians, thugs, thieves and rogues, Prabhupada called them. They're all over the world, in every community, every country in human society. And they are performing vikarmas. 5th canto of Bhagavatam. Excuse me. Rishabdev, who was we believe is a Shaktiavesh avatar of
It's 7 o'clock.
Bhagavan. Matta, what is it? Matta kurute vikarma. Forgetting the full verse. Matta pramatta. No, not matta.
Kurute.
Kurute vikarma. Kurute, they do vikarma. I can't remember the beginning of the verse. Anyway, those who are mad,
Kurute vikarma indriya pritya apninoti nasadumani.
what's the first verse? What's the first line, Maharaj?
Matak
Pramatta kurute vikarma, something like that.
Yeah, I believe that's the first line. Yeah.
So, becoming mad, people engage in sinful activity. We call it sinful because there's a reaction to those actions. And the whole human society, we see the ruffians, the rogues, the thieves, but even ordinary people are eating meat and drinking alcohol. It's highly sinful. Therefore, they are tamasic and they will go down. It's very, very, therefore Bhakta Prahalad was feeling, that, oh my Lord, I can't remember the Sanskrit, but the English translation, oh my Lord, I feel sorry for these fools and rascals who are engaging in all these sins. And he also has been through many lifetimes. That's also in Gita Bhumi Medya Titani Janmani Tavajarjuna. Oh Arjuna, both of us have been born many times. Tani Janmani, those births, Aham Veda, I know them, I remember them. Matvam Veda, you don't remember. So that is Nara Narayan. Narayan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. He remembers everything. We are Naras, ordinary human beings, we don't remember. So then how to behave? We must learn what is dharma by studying Vedic literature. Those who follow the religion of the meat eaters didn't have the requisite intelligence to give up that sinful activity. They continue to, even in the religious rituals, they drink alcohol. In the religious rituals, they kill animals. These are lower class people who will be bound up by these vikarmas. Karmanaschapi bodhavyam bodhavyam chapi vikarmana. If you know that something is wrong, you have to give it up. You don't want to suffer the reaction for that. Now, if you're totally surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you may get free from all of those sinful reactions. But Prabhupada, our Acharya, he warned that Nama Parad is there. Nam no balad yasya hi papa buddhihi. One should not commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. that is not the holy name. One may chant, but if he's committing papas, sinful activities, the chanting is useless. It's nam aparad. It's an offense to the holy name. So what we say is, if you chant the holy name, you'll be purified. But if you commit these vikarmas that are mentioned in the Bhagavatam and in the Gita, then the chanting of the holy name won't bear the fruit of ultimately liberating the soul from the repetition of birth and death in the material world. I'm just going to look at the verse again. So Prabhupada says, if one hears Krishna Katha in today's purport, and that was already instructed earlier here in the Bhagavatam, Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishnaha. Shrinvatam, those who hear, Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, by hearing and chanting those instructions and pastimes of Lord Krishna, he obtains pious credit, which is the opposite of papa, sinful discredit. So, Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, Hridayantastaha, inside of the heart, that material attachment, Hridayantaha, in the heart, staha, situated, Hridayantastaha, what is it? Hridayantasta avapnoti suhritsatam. Vidhunoti suhritsatam. Those who are devotees are free from the entanglement of the attachments to material energy and material pleasure by hearing the pastimes of Krishna. So the pastime in question, getting back to the verse, is that the sons of the Pandavas were killed by Ashwatthama in their sleep. And that he brought their heads and showed them to Duryodhana, who disapproved of that heinous act. So it happened, and in the Mahabharata it is described in more detail. It says that they were sleeping, but they woke up and fought. But Ashwatthama was... Lord Shiva entered the body of Ashwatthama. That's what Mahabharata says. And Lord Shiva is the personality of God. He is another form of Krishna, another form of Vishnu, just like milk and yogurt are different forms of the same substance. So Shiva is the incarnation of destruction and the mode of ignorance. So who could kill? Dronacharya didn't only kill the 5 sons of Draupadi. He killed thousands of those who survived the battle, after the battle. And then he wanted to destroy Parikshit, who was in the womb of Uttara, the wife of Abhimanyu, the grandson of Arjuna. And he shot the Brahmastra, which was the most sophisticated, subtle, but also gross, activated by subtle energy, by mantra shakti, the power of mantras. But it was the atom bomb or worse. And that was counteracted by a Brahmastra from Arjuna. But the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama did reach the womb of Uttara and destroyed the embryo of Parikshit. However, Vishnu, Lord Krishna, appeared and reversed the situation and gave Parikshit back life, and he would become the king after the Pandavas left Hastinapur and Vanaprastha ashram and went to the Himalayas, according to the Mahabharata. So this is Krishna Katha, the story of the Kauravas and the Pandavas. You may say, well, what does it have to do with Krishna? Krishna was in Dwarka on the western tip of India. And the fight was in what is today Haryana, 160 kilometers. That's 100 miles north of what is today Delhi. Well, the answer is Lord Krishna was there at the fight. He was the charioteer of Arjuna. And as the last verse of Gita, in the last verse of Gita, Sanjaya says, wherever there is Krishna and Arjuna, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara. Where these two are, Tatra, there, Shrihi, beauty and opulence. Tatra Shrir Vijayaha, victory. Vijayaha Bhutir Dhruva Nitir. And for certain there is Dharma, Niti. Niti means morality, and morality means Dharma. So a devotee, see, there are different types of devotees. We saw one young boy came here yesterday at the temple here in ISKCON, Chicago, where I am right now. He was a temple devotee a couple years ago, and he went to India a couple times, and now he's got long, unsheveled hair, and he's a Baba. And he doesn't have a bad heart, but he's not getting the proper guidance. The proper guidance is required, because you can be a devotee and you can engage in simple activities at the same time. And Prabhupada said, he commented, those are called sahajiyas. And in Bengal, there are different groups of these sahajiyas, which were described by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Owls, bowels, Gauranga Nagari, Sakhi Bheki, and there are many others. There's a book by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and one of our godbrothers who departed this world quite some years ago, 10 or 15 years back, Suhotra Swami, he also wrote such a book about the Apasampradayas. So if someone thinks that he can engage in all kinds of simple activities and still be a devotee, like having many female consorts. There are Babajis in Radha Kund. Behind the back, they have, female consorts, or they smoke bidis. Same with closer to home in the Gaudiya Math. One of the Prabhupada's godbrothers told me, and this has got to be 30 years ago because he himself passed away 26 years ago, that in a particular Gaudiya Math in Navadvip, every brahmachari had a didi. Didi is elder sister, but it's a euphemism for a girlfriend. So someone should not be a cheater. One must be very determined to follow the principles. If one cannot follow the principles, be a householder, be a grihastha, but don't engage in vyabhichar, bad behavior. So I think Prabhupada wanted to teach this, that we should, hear Krishna Katha, study these books, study the Bhagavatam, then we'll get a clear conception of what Vedic Sanatana Dharma is. And those who don't study, well, they come up with their own whimsical ideas. And that's in the Gita, in the verse I quoted, 1623. Vartate kama karataha. They invent their own ideologies. Careful of that. There's some noise coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
So can I throw it open for questions now? I think we've had 45 minutes of lecture. We can have 15 minutes of questions here, or some people can send in questions by text here on, what is this, Zoom, or over at Facebook. I'm not sure how you can send in the questions, maybe by typing a comment. Although I'm not sure where I can see the comments. Yeah, there are no comments that have come in.
Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. I think correct me if I'm wrong. I think you may have inadvertently said that you meant Ashvatthama at one point. I think you said Dronacharya killed thousands after the Battle of Kurukshetra and did all this.
Ashvatthama, the son of Dronacharya.
It was actually Ashvatthama, of course.
Yeah.
I guess the most interesting, if I could put it like that, question that I might have is when we talk about 1866, which is the iconic verse, very often it's the first verse that any devotee learns in the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know. I maybe there's a slightly different understanding that I always understood that we should actually, not we, but someone who's actually surrendered completely to Krishna. He was actually totally surrendering. Sarvadharma Parichaja, mam ekam. Mam ekam. Ekam means exclusively, just only to me, surrendering to Krishna. Then that person should actually give up all dharmas that fall short of the ultimate dharma of actual surrender and love for Krishna. It doesn't mean they go out and they break all the regular principles or anything like that. That'll happen automatically, but the point is that they shouldn't be taking shelter in any lesser, just like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Shraddha, Sabde, Vishvasha, Sudrida, Nishchaya, Krishna Bhakti, Kaile, Sarva Karma Kritahaya, that the idea that one takes shelter of Krishna, then one has automatically fulfilled all the others, just like that Aho Bachatos, Spapacha, Gariyan, Yajib Vragre, by chanting Hare Krishna, really chanting Hare Krishna, then one is understood that he's already done all the other dharmas. So I think Krishna is advising Arjuna, after all is said and done in the Bhagavad Gita, that just don't worry about all these concerns that you have. These are all dharmas. Actually, Arjuna was arguing in terms of dharma when he was concerned at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita of destruction of dynasty and the contamination of the women that would result, and unwanted population and destruction of family tradition, and he heard, etc., etc. There's nothing that wasn't dharma about that. But Krishna at the end was telling him, don't worry about it. Masuchaha, don't worry about it. You're good to go. You're fine. Because you're actually surrendered to me. As Arjuna proved by actually doing that, by actually Kadishye Vachanam Tava, by actually obeying Krishna's instruction, which was so difficult for him to do, apparently. Anyway, I just want to throw that in. Hare Krishna.
See, Maharaj, if you don't mind, because everyone, even though that instruction is there, like, for instance, giving up all dharma would mean giving up, the Brahminical dharma of the 3 sacrifices that every Brahmin is supposed to perform, yagnas, Agnihotra, right? There's Ahavaniya, Garbhapatya, and Dakshinagni. Every Brahmin is supposed to have 3 fires burning in his house and offer oblations of ghee into those fires on a daily basis. There's a system for keeping that fire going by covering it in cow dung. And all these other dharmas to become a fully surrendered devotee, the devotee on the highest platform, Uttama Adhikari. But that isn't possible for everybody. Everyone isn't doing it. Therefore, Prabhupada propagated Daiva Varnashram. You follow your duties according, and Krishna himself said, I created the Varnashram. So if you make a show of being fully surrendered, that was my point, that there are many so-called devotees, and Prabhupada said they are devotees in one place, but they're actually sahajiyas who make a show of devotion. They cannot attain the highest perfection, even if they make a show. You see, so really fully surrendered, like Bali Maharaj, is the example of full surrender, right? Atmanivedanam. So that's not so easy to do. That's not so easy to become an Uttama Adhikari, to give up, to rise to the level of Nishta and Prema. And, first you have to go by an Artha Nivritti. And an Artha Nivritti, giving up all of the material attachments. And if you don't have Vedic culture, you're not inclined to give up those bad habits. An Artha Nivritti means give up the bad habits. But if you were trained wrong, Prabhupada gave the example of the school in Switzerland that taught music. And if you had studied music earlier, they would charge you more because you learned the wrong way. And so that's what we have in the world. Most of the people were not born in Vedic families. Therefore, Prabhupada stresses in this purport, today's purport, that the people of India got the right training. Now, that's a generalization. And we know right now that in India, many, many people have given that up and they're sending their children for Western education. They're not getting that Vedic education. They're not getting the Vedic sanskaras, the urban, milieu in India is like the West in many ways, although it's still better because there is some touch with Vedic culture. But in the past, I saw in villages in India, I went to one town in Karnataka near Hyderabad called Raichur in 1977 to enroll life members. And there was a sadhu who came. There was, those were the days there was no TV and cinema was in a cinema hall and everybody didn't go to the cinema hall every day. And the pious members of the North Indian community, there's a business community from North India settled in South India, Rajasthani business people. And some sadhu came and there were a few hundred people every day listening to his discourse, Krishna Katha or Rama Katha, whatever. So this goes on all over India. It had gone on from time immemorial. People were trained to be sattvic. That's my point. If you just come to ISKCON and you had a tamasic training like we did, Mlechas and Yavanas that we are, it's very difficult to give up the bad habits, even after being in ISKCON for 40 years or 50 years or whatever. That's why Prabhupada wanted the Western devotees to come to India, learn the culture, learn how to behave, learn what is sinful and what is, pious activity. And at the end, gradually, Prabhupada said gradual elevation if you follow the Vedic system. But fully surrender is possible, like Katvanga. Katvanga is the example of someone who was, the story. Many people listening may or may not know the story, but Katvanga was a king who fought with the devatas, the demigods. And when he was asked by them for a benediction, his response was, I want to know how much longer I will live. And the reply was 1 moment. And so in that 1 moment, he became fully surrendered in his mind to Vishnu and he got liberation. So that's an exceptional case. Or Ajamil. Ajamil was given the proper training. He went off the track and he came back when he was dying and he said the name of Narayana. So the holy name saved him, because when he said that name, Narayana, Vishnu Dutas appeared and stopped the Yamadutas. They actually restored his life. And then he went to Haridwar, according to the Bhagavatam story. He went to Haridwar and engaged in bhakti and got liberation. So yes, these examples are there. And we should surrender fully. But we should also not think that we are on the highest platform. That's another type of arrogance, and that we don't need to follow the rules and regulations. Anyway, I think I made my point. Any other question?
I have a question.
Sure.
Yes, I always stress this point because when Arisori was in Mayapur and they were talking about Varna Ashram, with Prabhupada. And then, Prabhupada, Arisori say, no, devotees are doing this, devotees are doing that, more or less suggesting that the Varna ashram was not a secondary. And Prabhupada, when he say, no, these devotees, and Prabhupada say, what devotees is it? To become devotee is very, it's not that easy.
Yeah,
Not that easy, he say. He say, just follow Varna ashram. Now, according to the Varna ashram, we are in Kali Yuga. So we cannot follow the principles in Satya Yuga that we follow in Kali Yuga. That's my question.
Right. This is
To
going
me-
around. This is going around now, where certain ISKCON devotees, I won't say who it is, but they're spreading an idea that the teachings of the Bhagavatam, or at least some of the teachings, are actually meant for a previous age. And so we don't have to follow. They give the example that brahmacharis wore tree bark. And so what my answer to that is that we have to follow what our acharyas taught us, what Prabhupada and Bhakti Siddhanta taught. We may not be able to follow everything. In fact, we know that, we admit that. But what Prabhupada taught us to do, if he said that we should follow Varnashram, if it was Prabhupada's teaching, and it was, then you can't say, I don't want to hear the V word. Now, I don't want to mention the name of an ISKCON devotee who said that. He's not a god brother, he's a junior devotee, but he thinks he's a very great devotee, like a lot of people think they're great. And he said, I don't want to hear the V word, quote unquote. V word means Varnashram. When Lord Krishna says, I created the Varnashram, and you're supposed to be a devotee of Krishna, how can you repudiate what Krishna taught? It's nonsense.
Yeah.
But
my second question to you is,
it's going on.
My second question to you is, you always stress that feeding the poor is not what Prabhupada taught us. But I was reading today the Ekadasi Lila today, this Ekadasi,
We're
Pana
following
Ekadasi.
Here it was yesterday. Okay.
Yeah, well, yesterday. And he says, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that if you feed a brahmachari, it's better than feeding 10 brahmanas, feeding just a brahmachari. And then better than feeding a brahmachari is giving a girl, a married girl, to the brahman. And better than marry
unmarried girl.
Unmarried girl is to feed the poor. And he says feeding the poor is one of the best of all acts.
Where is this? What is the pramana?
In the Ekadasi, the Ekadasi book.
No, Ekadasi book is, where is it from? Where is it from?
This is what they publish in the...
No, not the Ekadasi book. They must have quoted some Purana or some place.
I have to see.
Right.
It's when you go into the telephone and you have the app, there's a Ekadasi app, Ekadasi reminder. Right there, the story is there.
No, the story is okay. Where is the story from? That's the question. Anyway, you see, there are many stories that deal with dharma, artha, and kama, and not with moksha. We know that. But what did our acharya teach? Prabhupada. So Guru Das wrote to Prabhupada that he wanted to feed poor children in Madras, which is now called Chennai. And Prabhupada wrote back, feeding the poor children is okay. He wasn't opposed to it. He said, but they must hear our philosophy. It must go in their ears. Simply food is nonsense. Now that was Prabhupada's opinion, not my opinion. Prabhupada said simply food is nonsense. Because Prabhupada's aim was the preaching mission.
You are distributing food. You are distributing food to the poor. I've seen thousands of poor people.
It's prasad at the gate of the temple. Tirupati, Prabhupada said that you feed in the compound, feed people prasad. In Africa, he told, prasadam is the main preaching, in East Africa especially. But there are many Africans became devotees. you know.
But you're not giving philosophy to the poor in the gate. The people just come, eat, and leave.
True, but they take it outside, not inside. There's a difference between feeding prasadam in the temple. That Prabhupada wanted, give people prasad profusely. But when you're sending food outside and there's no philosophy, it's different. First of all, they hire people in kitchens who are not devotees, and they cook it and then they send it directly to schools. It's not offered to deities. They may say, oh, well, we have a small deity. Even in our kitchen, we have a small deity, but it's in the temple compound. You know, it's considered prasad. Even in Tirupati, they don't bring the prasad to the main deity. There's another deity where they offer the prasad, by the way. So in the temples, Prabhupada wanted profuse prasadam distribution. There's a distinction between in the temple distributing prasad and going out and finding poor people. There's another letter from Prabhupada. Why only the poor people? Everyone needs the prasad.
Yeah.
Why you discriminate? Then there's another letter. Don't go to the emergency area. You know, when there's a flood or an earthquake or whatever, devotees go there and distribute prasad. We did it. There was an earthquake or a flood. Yeah, in Morbi. And we sent, and when there was an earthquake in 2001, so it's 20 years ago. January is coming up, 20th anniversary of the Bhuj earthquake, Kutch earthquake.
Correct.
Yeah, we had a camp and we were distributing prasad to the poor people.
It was nice, the bodies.
Right, but you know, Prabhupada actually instructed not to do it. And there's a letter, don't go to the emergency place. So, you know, we're not 100% strict, but every day, so those are exceptional cases, but every day sending food to kids, and that's not our business. Our business is to preach Sanatan Dharma, Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Katha.
But now ISKCON is doing throughout India, everywhere, all the temples.
Not all the temples. There are many people who don't do it. Actually, Delhi and Bombay, the Anamritam, they call it.
Oh, yeah.
We passed a resolution that it should be accompanied by kirtan and lectures. If they don't follow that, what can we do? Okay. Any other question? I don't.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories unto Srila Prabhupada. How are you? Thank you very much for giving the class, and my apologies. I know that maybe I've said things or acted ways in the past that may be offensive, so I ask forgiveness for those offenses if there were any worse. So,
No.
And also, I thank you for giving the class and completely agreeable and appreciable. I mean, it's certainly great mercy that devotees give class 30 minutes. I mean, these days, right now, anybody who gives any kind of class, they charge them for. So it's really great. Thank you very much. One thing came to mind when we were speaking about, you know, the Vanashram, which it's totally agreeable because we can understand there's people have different natures, and invariably everybody has falls into particular nature. Now, in relationship to the verse where it's Canto 4, Chapter 8, text number 54, Srila Prabhupada emphasizes in the purport that what is being done in one country cannot be done in another country. Anyways, you know that. And also right now in this country per se, right now there's a big, huge, and I'm talking about in a mundane sense, there's a big, huge political division between the Republicans and the Democrats. I mean, I've never seen it so divisive right now, but it seems like anybody who's a Democrat cannot get along with the Republicans, and there's no unification because they put these differences so much on the forefront that, of course, this is a mundane sense, but they said, okay, we're all Americans. Let's just, you know, that's it. Let's just put all this behind us. So sometimes in the art of bhakti yoga, you know, our personal realizations, our personal differences can get to a point where sometimes that can happen where there's no unification amongst Vaishnavas, even though one has a personal realization, etc. So I was just wondering, how can we surpass this obstacle where even though we may have personal realizations, even out of training or out of instructions or whatever the case may be, even though we have those, but at the same time coming amongst ourselves as Prabhupada's family and try to, sort of like harmonize those differences, even though we have those personal realizations and personal understanding or personal, whatever of how, bhakti yoga should be practiced.
Again, we should follow what our acharyas, Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, instructed us. Excuse me. You should have had that drink of water while you were speaking.
So my apologies. I didn't mean to make a statement.
I mean, the situation in the United States in the 1960s, there was also a lot of riots. There was, if you go back over the history, it was a tumultuous time. And there was a division in society. There was the anti-Vietnam War people and those people who supported the war in Vietnam. Later on, everyone, I think, realized that the war in Vietnam was nonsense. In fact, Eisenhower, when he left office, he warned about the military-industrial complex. You might have seen it. So there's a video, right? Have you ever seen that?
Well, I don't think so.
Oh, wow. You got to see that on YouTube. You can just Google it, Eisenhower military-industrial complex.
Oh.
So, war is good business, right? And the Vietnam War was good business for the people who are in the armaments business. And Eisenhower was the president, he was a general, and he understood that situation in 1960 when he demitted office and Kennedy became president. But the anti-war movement tore the country apart. The anti-war movement, the civil rights movement. You see, in the material world, there's always some disturbance. Today's verse, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, and how Ashwatthama killed not only the 5 sons, while they were sleeping, but he actually killed thousands. And the war itself killed millions, right? So upheaval in human society is as old as the hills, as the saying goes. Prabhupada had a very clear methodology for preaching. After he disappeared 43 years ago, my God, it's been expanded many times. Prabhupada would be pleased, and that's what I feel. That's just my subjective feeling. But what he wanted has, book distribution, temples, people worshiping Radha Krishna deities, and the instructions that he's given in his books he gave the most importance to that. Then in his lectures would come next because they were public pronouncements. And letters were somewhat confidential. And in conversations, Prabhupada said things that, I don't want to say publicly, but we could be taken to court. I know, for example, when Prabhupada bought the land in Bombay, he paid some cash under the table. Now, we shouldn't go broadcasting that to the universe. In India, it was very common. We're talking about something that's almost 50 years old. It was in 1972. So, Prabhupada dealt with the real world, and we're dealing with the real world. And the movement has a lot of successes. Now, it's also a fact that there's a bit of stagnation over here, and especially with the non-Hindus. The Hindus naturally, Prabhupada told us in Bombay that on the morning walk, he said, in India, more or less everyone is Krishna conscious. Now we know there are 30% of the, 20% of the population are Muslims. They're not Krishna conscious, they kill cows, etc. So the point being that the Indians, and that's in today's verse, the Indians should go around the world and teach people Vedic culture. Prabhupada wanted Vedic culture to be spread. If we give up spreading Vedic culture and, try and, what is it, assimilationist. Ekankar, Prabhu, have you heard of it? Ekankar. Okay.
I don't think I heard it.
It's a movement here in the United States. It's not so popular, but it had its roots in a Punjabi Sikh preacher who came to the US in the 1950s and 60s, got some American disciples, but they gave up the Indian cultural aspects, and they just had their philosophy, retaining all the Western culture and everything. And it's based in Minneapolis today. Was started in Las Vegas. It's a very long story. You can go on the internet and you can Google it. So I don't think ISKCON should become like Ekankar. That's my point. Prabhupada wanted the Indian cultural aspects. He wanted the foreigners to come to India to learn the culture and the Indians to spread the culture, and he called it cultural conquest.
Yeah, I remember Prabhupada used to say, once a year, I want all my disciples to come to India.
To Mayapur.
Once a year for the Mayapur festival. Some devotee asked, no, I don't want to go. I want to distribute books. And Prabhupada said, no, once a year, all my disciples should come to India and learn. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I think the time is
Over.
40. We've done 1 hour and 10 minutes, and I have to give a lecture here to some brahmacharis in 20 minutes. So
Okay.
don't mind. I'll see you in Miami, hopefully
In January.
sometime in the first or second week of January.
You got a group here, a group of Indians, they are waiting for you. They say they're going to take care of you.
I will, let me say, I want to help you as far as I can.
Yes,
I'm an old man, but I'll do what I can.
that's great.
The
We can do some, the Indians, they want to do some Sanskrit classes and other thing.
I'll do whatever, to the best of my ability. We'll try. We'll come up with some programs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Haribo.
Vancha kalpa yascha kripa sindhu bheva cha patitanam bhavane. Namo namaha.
Namo Namaha.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Yay. Radhe Radhe.